Hi, Bridget. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you two today?
Very, very well.
Very good, thank
Thank you
you.
for talking to us.
Of
We
course, thank you
appreciate
for
it.
talking with me. Thank you for talking with me. So I'm just gonna jump in. I have some questions I want to ask you guys. So I'm just gonna kind of jump in. Whoever feels fit to answer them, just please jump right in.
Thank you.
So yeah, of course. So I watched the film. I loved it. I'm a big horror fan. I thought it was great.
Thank you.
And so this is your second feature film working together as a pair?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's-
Our first one was Charismata, made a number of years ago, and somehow we've made another together. I don't know how that happened, Andy, but I guess we're both masochists at heart.
I'm very slow at raising money as well.
Now, so when you guys work on, no, this is only your second feature film, but you've done multiple projects together, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so kind of what's the benefit of working with each other? How did you kind of come to be a filmmaking pair?
Andy, do you want to
Do you
answer
want to take
that?
that on?
What's the benefit? That's a super interesting question. That's the first question we've had today that's completely stumped me. But I'll let Andy answer that.
I can say how we came together. It's we actually met because we both unfortunately cast the same actor who's our producing partner, who's also an actor, in separate movies, and he realizes that if he's friendly with directors, he can get lots of acting jobs. So he kind of made us be friends and never left. And I guess the reason we get on well is similar taste. Like Toor and I are the only people who we mutually ever met who loved the old Antonio Banderas movie, The 13th Warrior, which is, I think, one of the best movies ever made.
Absolutely.
And hate it, and the rest of the world hates it. So we spent a lot of time talking about that.
What's your personal opinion on The 13th Warrior, Bridget? Have you seen it?
I'm sorry, wait, can you repeat that, please?
What's your personal take on The 13th Warrior? If you've seen it, you may not have seen it.
No, I have not seen it.
Oh.
But you said it's Antonio Banderas, though?
Yeah, it's technically, allegedly at least, the biggest Hollywood flop of all time. There's no movie in Hollywood history that's lost more money, and it's a masterpiece.
Well, I'm gonna add it to my movie watch list. You should
watch it tonight, and it may completely and utterly taint your opinion of us after watching it. But we maintain it is an underappreciated masterpiece.
Actually, so I was going to say, the first thing we ever worked on together was a short film called The 17th Kind, which was a TV pilot that never got anywhere, and that starred Tony, who was in The 13th Warrior, the greatest film ever made, and that's probably why Toor agreed to work on that short film.
It's the only reason.
Yeah.
Whenever we have a disagreement working, which, let's face it, is every 5 minutes, I look in his eyes and I think I hate this man, but he does love The 13th Warrior, so he has that going for him at least.
That's the benefit. Yeah, I guess.
Absolutely.
So how did you guys fall into working in the horror genre? Are you both horror fans? How did you end up coming into making this film specifically?
I personally hate horror. I just work on horror because Andy leads me in that direction, and we have a very abusive relationship. But if it was up to me, we wouldn't be working in the horror genre. We'd be making romantic comedies or kitchen sink dramas.
On the other hand, I do love horror. I think I love a movie which is surprising in some way, where you don't know what's going to happen, and I think horror embodies that, because I think it's the one genre where really anything goes, and more than any other genre, you don't know what's going to happen when you start a film. Like a thriller is probably going to be a thriller, and a comic book movie is going to have superheroes and explosions. Whereas can be anything.
Yeah, yeah. So I know this newest film, Sacrificed, is based off the short story Men of the Cloth. Now, did you read that short story and that's what led you to writing this screenplay for this, or how did you kind of stumble across this specific project?
Yeah, we were looking after our previous film Charismata, which was really ambitious in scope. Like, we shot it in London with a large cast and many locations, and we were looking to shoot something much easier and much lazier, like a two-person cabin in the woods, self-contained folk horror type thing, or thriller. And we found that short story amongst many others that we were looking at, trying to find inspiration because we couldn't find our own to write anything new, and we just kept coming back to that one. And yeah, I think Toor, I think we tried not to make that one, but you know, when we were sifting through piles of stories, that one kept rising to the top.
Yeah, well, to be, if I remember correctly, I mean, and this is going back a number of years now, depressingly. I think it's an absolutely wonderful short story, and Paul Kane's such a magnificent writer. But I think when we read it, it was, wow, I really love scarecrows. let's make a horror film with scarecrows. This has got a shitload of scarecrows in it. No one's made a really great scarecrow horror movie in years. Let's do that. And then we started adapting it, and we realized, shit, we don't have the budget to actually make a scarecrow movie where the scarecrows actually come to life. But by that time, we're so invested in every other element of the film that we, of the screenplay and the story, that we ended up actually exercising the scarecrow element from our final script, just so we could actually produce it on the budget we had. Yeah, the truth is, it was the scarecrows, wasn't it, Andy?
It was.
Maybe not in yours.
We did keep two scarecrows or sort of scarecrows.
We do. We have an approximation of a scarecrow in this particular movie, but they're not animated, which is actually the reason why we were able to produce it in the first place, or it would have sent the budget spiraling.
Yeah. So originally, I know, Andy, you just said, you were looking to do something smaller scale, location, like just in a cabin, a couple actors. So this was in fact filmed partly in Norway, correct?
Yeah, because we're idiots.
Yeah. So how did you, where did you find the location for this? Was that, did you go searching out, or how did that come?
Yeah, the genesis of the idea was, as Andy says, to do a cabin in the woods type movie, one or two locations. We were going to film it, and very initially, in terms of the original draft, in the UK, try and keep it as self-contained as possible. And then one of us had the bright idea, probably prompted by half of my family being Norwegian, to from films like The Wicker Man, and, to be honest, pretty much every other British horror film. And at the time, we thought that was a wonderful idea, but there were two problems with that. Ultimately, one, Norway is literally the most expensive country in the world. so us trying to say it, and two, Midsummer came out just as we started production. So what went from being what we hoped at the time was an exercise in originality, transpiring into something that looked like we were potentially hopping on a bandwagon that didn't exist before we actually started the process. But luckily, we think, at least, our film, certainly aesthetically, stylistically, is very different to Midsummer. But it did start as this contained couple of location horrors filmed in filmed in our back garden, essentially. Isn't that all? But we had the best intentions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now,
But yeah, hell is paved with the best intentions.
Yeah, I think the Norwegian fjord looks a lot prettier than your back garden, Toor.
That's a subjective statement. I'm a wonderful gardener.
I mean, the location was just stunning, absolutely stunning. The island and the water and everything. It was absolutely beautiful. So something I want to ask about is, and I thought that was really neat in the whole movie, is the transitions that you guys had from scene to scene, where you kept transitioning from water and it would bring you to another scene, it would flip. And just like the dream sequences kept tripping me up 110%. I've never seen a film do that. So kind of who came up with those ideas? Who was the mastermind behind all of that? Because I thought that was awesome visually, and I thought it was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Well, we could take credit for that, but essentially we just ripped off Lovecraft, and that's what gave it this dreamlike quality. No, we ripped off a lot of people. I'd say Lovecraft was one. Under the Skin was another. Yeah, various people can take credit for that other than myself or Andy. Although
Yeah,
Andy's going to take credit
that's
for
right.
Red
I forgot
Tower.
about that. Yeah, I think definitely Under the Skin, you know, the weird kind of oily spaceship scenes were definitely inspired by that. And that was in the mood book, wasn't it, as a reference? But I think once we decided to do this kind of watery theme, which obviously plays to Call of Cthulhu, where he lives under the sea, you know, we worked really hard on the visuals, you know, and we tried to get as many different and kind of mutually unique of these watery transitions in as we could to give it a real identity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we spent working on that, and a lot of time shooting them. They took a ridiculous amount of time to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And I think one of my last questions, I know we got to wrap up here soon. What was it like working with Barbara Crampton? I know that like she's no stranger to the horror genre. I mean, was that a planned, you know, role for her, or how did you get her to come onto your film?
I think the main reason she came onto the film was we paid her. She did it for the money. That's the reality. No, we that may well be reality, but our producer is an actor as well, and he actually worked with Barbara on a film, really cool horror film, if you haven't seen it, called Replace a few years ago. So he's actually one of the actors in that. So they had a pre-existing relationship, and originally her character in Sacrifice was male.
Mm-hmm.
But when our producer read the script, he said to us, "This actually could be something that Barbara might be interested in." And we thought, yeah, I mean, it's a Lovecraftian horror, and she's the queen of horror. She is a great actress. She looks as Scandinavian as it's possible to look. Please send it on to her, and he did, and thankfully she enjoyed the script and was interested, and we thought, yeah, we'll rewrite the role for her. And
and actually, Toy, I think that making that character female really added a lot of dimension to it as well.
yeah,
Before it was kind of a more ambiguous Gunnar, you know, so it wasn't. I mean, the character wasn't so differentiated from the rest of the characters, whereas we were able to write more layers into it, and then Barbara added even more. She added a lot of nuance into the character and the performance, so it worked out really well.
Absolutely, yeah. We got very, very lucky with her, and she was super invested in the role. She hired a voice coach without us prompting, to be honest. So she did a lot of work on the character before we had even met her, and in terms of myself and Andy, our producer, as I say, was a friend of hers, but myself and Andy hadn't met her before. hand, and she came in super prepared, and yeah, I think she gives a great performance.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think our time might be up. I think.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for
of course.
taking the time to talk to us. We
It was
really
a pleasure
appreciate
to
it.
meet both of you, and good
You
luck
too, an
with
absolute
any
pleasure.
upcoming projects and everything. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really
Sure.
appreciate it.
No problem.
Take
Bye bye.
care. Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to
Bye.
meet you as well. Bye.
Bye.